Hi, thanks for checking in and watching another of your math video lessons. In this lesson, we're going to be actually solving equations by adding and subtracting. Now, if you're following along in your textbook, this is lesson 4.3 on pages 184 to 186, and I highly encourage you to take notes, and especially, this is actually really important in this video, you're going to definitely want a calculator handy. There are a few examples that we're going to go over today that involve working with decimals and negative numbers. So if you're not good at doing decimals and negative numbers in your head, which a lot of people are not, I would encourage you to get a calculator and have it ready to go. So this unit 2, is all about equations and expressions, and we've been gearing up to solve equations, right? We've done things like the distributive property, and we've identified like terms, and we've been combining our like terms. But starting today now, we're going to be solving equations, which means we're going to be finding the value of the variable. Remember, variables are letters of the alphabet that are used to represent your unknown number in the math problem. So, back in Unit 1, we touched on equations just real quick one day at the end of the unit, and I was trying to tell you like my little tricks of the trade for working with equations and working with variables. And one of the things I told you, if you recall back at the end of Unit 1, was that when we're solving equations and we're focusing on that variable, remember that that variable is grumpy and he wants to be alone, right? Grumpy variables they're antisocial, right? They don't want any numbers stuck onto them. Variables don't want any numbers on their side of the equal sign, and your job is to take all the numbers that are bothering the variable and move them away to the other side of the equation. So the grumpy variable wants to be alone. Now, as far as moving these numbers away from the variable to make him become happy, the way we do that is by doing the opposite, right? So if it says add 2, the opposite of adding 2 is going to be subtracting 2. If it says to subtract 10, the opposite of that would be to add 10. Adding and subtracting are opposite functions. And I also taught you at the end of that Unit 1 a couple weeks ago that whatever you do to one side of an equation, you have to do to the other side of the equation. You have to be fair. So we're going to be getting the grumpy variable alone, and we're going to be doing the opposite of whatever the problem says to do, and we're going to do that to both sides. Okay, so definitely write this down. And then I have down there in blue that subtraction and addition are opposites of each other. When you add 2 and then you turn around and subtract 2, it's basically like you never did anything at all. They sort of cancel each other out. Okay, hopefully you've either taken a screenshot and printed these notes, or hopefully you are writing them. So here are some examples. We're going to solve these equations. We're going to figure out the value for these variables. So here's our first problem. It says x minus 7 equals negative 4. So I find the variable is x, and he is slightly grumpy because on the left side of the equal sign, right? So this is like the middle of the equation. So we're looking at the left side right now. That x is not alone. He's got to subtract 7 on his side, and that's bothering him. So your job is to move that 7 away. And to do that, you do the opposite of whatever it says. Right now it says subtract 7. The opposite of subtract 7 is add 7. But if I do that to the left side of the equation, I have to do that to the right side of the equation. So, looking back at the x at the left side, I see that subtracting 7 and adding 7, they cancel each other out. They are the opposite of each other, and basically that creates a 0. So you can cross that off. I draw a line, and now I'm going to rewrite my new problem. On the left-hand side of the equal sign, all I have now is x. And he's alone, and he's happy. He says, thank you so much for moving that 7 away. But now on the right-hand side, you have a math problem to solve. You have to solve negative 4 plus 7. So If you're not good at that in your head, go ahead and use a calculator. -4 plus 7 gives you a +3. Final answer. That means if I were to go back up to the original equation and plug in a +3 for the x and solve it, it should work. So let's see. If that's a 3, and 3 minus 7 on a calculator does in fact equal -4. So my answer is correct. Now, you're going to see that as we're doing these equations in class, I'm going to be asking you to show your work. What I just did was show my work. All right, and you're going to have to show your work. So get ready, because you're going to be asked to write the original problem. You're going to be asked to show me what are you doing to isolate the variable, right, to get the variable alone. You have to show me that step, and then show me your final answer. So here's the next problem. I see that y is the variable, and he's on the other side of the equation this time. He's on the right side of the equal sign. That doesn't matter. We're still trying to get y to be alone. He does not want that +14 anywhere near him. It makes him grumpy. So you're going to come in, you're going to do the opposite. The opposite of add 14 is subtract 14. And if I do it on the right side of the equal sign, I have to do it on the left side of the equal sign. I draw my line. I can cross those off because they create a 0. I know that on the right side of my equal sign I have y, and he's alone and he's happy. He says thank you. And on the left side you have to solve 25 minus the 14. And 25 minus 14 is 11, and that is the value of y. Y has a value of 11, and you could go back and check it. In the original problem, 11 plus 14 does equal 25. There's another one on this page. Oh yes, there it is. All right, solving for P. P is grumpy. He says, get this -13 away from me. You say, I'll do it, because I know that instead of subtracting 13, I need to add 13, and I need to do that to both sides of the equal sign. I draw my line. Cross those off because they are opposite functions and they create a 0 in this case. P says, thank you so much. On the other side, you have to solve -45 and plus a +13. And when you get that, you should get a value of -32. That means the value of P is -32. So it's really a lot of calculator work, and you're just doing the opposite of whatever the problem starts off with. Let's see, we have a couple more. Here we go. Oh, like I said, I see negatives and I see decimals, so definitely going to want to fire up your calculator. Okay, we're looking at N. He's grumpy. Why? Because of the subtract 9.7. Do the opposite and add 9.7. Draw my line. Bye-bye over there. There's my equal sign. N is alone. He's happy. And on a calculator, I'm thinking you're probably typing in -13.9 and you're adding 9.7. And for your answer, it's -4.2. -4 2/10. And if you wanted to check your work, take that number, plug it in there, and subtract 9.7 and make sure you get the right answer of -13.9. How about this guy? What? Come back. Where are you going? He ran away. There he is. Y plus 10 equals 23. Y says, man, I don't want that plus 10. And you say, I'm here to save the day. I'm going to subtract 10. And if I do it on the left side, I have to do it on the right side. You have to do it to both sides. Bye-bye. Y says, phew, thank you for making me all alone. I'm antisocial and I want to be alone. Now, you have to solve the 23 minus 10, and that has an answer of 13. Not too bad, right? Always doing the opposite. Always doing the opposite, and then doing that to both sides. Looking at the M, he doesn't want the plus 6.7, so you're going to subtract the 6.7 from both sides. remember, you're always trying to get rid of the numbers that are on the same side of the equation as the variable, right? The variable m does not want that 6.7, so that's who you're trying to get rid of. M equals 3.4 minus 6.7 is negative 3 3/10, or 3.3. We only have 2 more. No, 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 don't run away. There we go. Alrighty, look at that z. Ooh, this one's kind of interesting because of the way it's set up. So we're looking at z, and we're trying to get z to be alone. So we need to get rid of this 16. This guy. He needs to move. We need to get him away from the z. Now, what is the 16 right now? Look, over here. It's plus 16. It doesn't have anything to do with this plus or addition symbol. That belongs really to the z. Okay? So the reason that we are going to subtract 16 is because of the invisible addition sign or positive sign to the left of the 16. So yes, we are going to subtract 16, but it's not because of the addition symbol that you actually see at first glance when you look at the problem. So we're going to subtract 16 from both sides. Got to be fair. So there I have a z equals 14 minus 16 is not 2. It's negative 2, right? Because 14 minus 16 puts you down into the negatives. Okie doke, last one over here. Let's solve for m. Let's isolate m and make m happy. All right, so m is irritated by who? That minus 2. He wants that minus 2 to get away from his side of the equation. And the opposite of minus 2 or negative 2 would be plus 2 or positive 2, either way. Got to do that to both sides, though. Bye-bye, 2's. M is positive, and he's alone, and he's happy. So on a calculator, negative 37 plus 2 gives you negative 35. And again, always, you can quickly check your answers using a calculator by taking your final answer, going back up to the original problem, plugging it in, and typing it in your calculator. Negative 2 plus negative 35 does make negative 37. All right, so this is just day 1, step 1 of solving equations, and I got news for you. It really does take off from here, and it won't be too long before you're doing some pretty complicated equations in this class. This is what we will be working on during class time. It's 12 through 26, all problems, not evens. It's going to be all. And notice this. Show your steps, also known as show work, also known as SW, if you see that in Family Access or Skyward or the online gradebook. SW means show work, which means show your steps. All right? Well, thanks for watching, and I look forward to working with you in class. Bye-bye.